folks, welcome aboard the Thursday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show. In just a few moments, we'll be joined by Timothy Stanley, historian, columnist, and former Oxford and Harvard professor. We'll get his take on what's going on with ISIS from across the pond. Also, his look at Ferguson and Barack Obama's reaction to it. But first, you know, the media, if I've heard it once, I've heard it a number of times, touting the fact that, oh, gasoline, wow, what a great Labor Day weekend it's going to be. Gas is so cheap. Prices have fallen to an average of $3.43 a gallon. So let's all rejoice, ladies and gentlemen, because the great Barack Obama has managed to accomplish this for us. Well, should we take a look back, maybe? Do you know what gas was when Barack Obama took office? Gasoline was $1.84 a gallon. We're now looking at $3.43, which is a few cents cheaper than last Labor Day. But nonetheless, we are now at, when Labor Day hits on Monday, it'll be 1,349 days of consecutive $3 plus price for gasoline. So, you know, celebrate. People are getting a break. Compared to what? Compared to last year, a few cents? Why don't we go back and see what Barack Obama has done to gas prices? And by the way, when he took office, or when he was running, he said he had no problem with $6, $7, $8 a gallon gas. He just didn't want it to happen too quickly. Do you recall that interview? Because I recall playing it over and over. All right, folks, Timothy Stanley joins us. But first, I want us all to watch this. I love this montage. Are you ready? Here it comes.
What does ISIS have to do with Kobe Bryant?
Those people are not people, they are monsters.
Monsters the president apparently brushed off back in January when he said to the New Yorker, if a JV team puts on Lakers uniforms, that doesn't make them Kobe Bryant.
ISIL clearly poses a long-term threat.
A JV team puts on Laker uniforms, that doesn't make them Kobe Bryant.
I don't know any other way to describe it other than barbaric.
That doesn't make them Kobe Bryant.
They're beyond just a terrorist group.
That doesn't make them Kobe Bryant.
ISIL militants continue to massacre and enslave innocent people.
That doesn't make them Kobe Bryant.
This is an organization that has an apocalyptic end-of-days strategic vision.
This was something a group the president had called the JV.
The JV, yeah.
They are an imminent threat to every interest we have.
That doesn't make them Kobe Bryant. Just how badly did President Obama underestimate the threat of ISIS?
Yeah, very, very badly, and maybe purposely, because claiming that they just found out about this threat recently is not true the more and more we learn. Joining us now is Timothy Stanley, historian, columnist, and former Oxford and Harvard professor. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Always great to talk to you and talk to you from the other side of the pond, as they say. All right, let's talk about a piece. You wrote a piece, for instance, about Saudi Arabia beheading 19 people in 1 month and saying ISIS would be proud. But you also said it's hard for a country like the United States to criticize that because of their liberal use of the death penalty, or because they say it does the same thing all the time. We don't behead people. Someone on death row gets appeal after appeal after appeal. It usually goes on for 20 years. We go to great lengths, sometimes with not great results, to make it as humane a death as possible. So I don't even see how in the same breath you could compare the Saudis beheading people that are convicted of whatever crime to the American criminal justice system and the use of the death penalty.
Well, I'm not comparing them. My point was that it's difficult for some Western countries to attack Saudi Arabia for use of the death penalty on the grounds simply of using a death penalty when America does the same. I'd also point out that I believe India still has a death penalty. And there are other countries that still have it too, which are democratic. So I'm not passing comment on the fact that America has it. On the contrary, the fact that America has it, and as you say, it takes so long to get it, there's a proper appeals process, makes it a completely different league. My point was simply that some Western countries may find it difficult to criticize Saudi Arabia for having the death penalty when America has it too. But of course, Saudi Arabia uses it in this rather different way, because one of the 19 people who were beheaded was beheaded for practicing sorcery. So don't get me wrong, I'm not claiming that America and Saudi Arabia are identical. Far from it. They exist basically in different centuries.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, I mean, I'm glad that we did clear that up. What about ISIS? I mean, you know, there was a poll, I think, from France that 16% of the French population support ISIS. Now, they have a large Muslim population, but the UK is getting a larger Muslim population. And you would ask yourself, how could any body in their right mind support ISIS? But 16% is a frighteningly large number.
Absolutely. And crucially, in the case of France, that's not just the Muslim population, because it's simply proportionally impossible. It'd have to be 100% of the Muslim population and more for that support for ISIS to all be explained entirely by immigration. It's not just about that. It's due to a general antipathy with politics, frustration at the global economic system, but also anger at mainstream politics that's making a lot of people incredibly cynical, to the point of darkly cynical. There are also some people who just hate America, Israel, and Western foreign policies so much that they are incapable of drawing distinctions between legitimate critics of that policy and nutcases with knives in the case of ISIL. So there's a lot of very complicated things going on here, but the way I always see it is that every generation has its own bogeyman. It has its own point of reference for what's the most horrible thing of all. And if you hate the system, if you reject the system, you tend to identify with that particular bogeyman. You may remember Columbine. There was a period in the late 90s and the early noughties where loads of kids who were shooting up schools would turn out to be fans of Hitler, including one guy who was of Native American descent and who openly said, I recognize there's some contradiction between my ethnicity and loving Hitler. They're simply latching on to what is at that time the most socially unacceptable thing. And I think in the case of much of that domestic support for ISIL, it's about that. It's about people saying, who hates America? Who hates Israel the most? I stand with them.
Yeah, well, that is pretty frightening. And these people, unless they're a Muslim with the stamp of approval of ISIS, they'll have their heads chopped off if they ever got to France. So they should be careful what they wish for. Let's move to Ferguson, if we can. And you wrote a lot about Ferguson in a piece. A black president couldn't stop the Ferguson race riots, and that was it for the both of them for the Telegraph. And I mean, obviously the president couldn't stop them. But what do you make of what's going on with the Justice Department being sent over there, Eric Holder going over there, 25 FBI agents going over there, the black attorney general saying this is personal, I'm a black man, I've been harassed by the police. Do you view that as a problem when it comes to our quest for the right thing to happen as according to the law?
I think there are two questions. One, what should the law do? And the law, of course, is blind. The idea of justice officials pursuing a case because of the racial dimension and how it relates to them personally, that is troubling. The second issue is, does it help? Does it actually help to resolve this crisis if someone goes in that particular way? There may actually be a role for Barack Obama to play as an African American in addressing those issues. I'm actually surprised by how he didn't address them. He has done in some instances. With Trayvon Martin he did. With this one he held back, perhaps because of his experience with the first case. But you know, African Americans are going to start asking questions about, has their life gotten better since this guy became president? On the one hand, you have this generation-defining moment when a black guy makes it to the presidency, which means that lots of young African Americans can look at that and aspire to that. But their lives haven't actually materially improved, nor obviously have relations with the police. On the contrary, we've had something like 5 race riots since Obama became president, and black incomes have actually fallen. So it's all very well to pursue this kind of approach that they're taking, which I can see why some people are troubled by. I'd rather know in concrete terms what the administration is going to do for everyone to raise the standard of living for everyone, so that some people don't feel disenfranchised from society.
Right. No, you obviously point out in your piece the statistics, the hard statistics. when it comes to black unemployment and fatherlessness and everything else that plagues the African-American community. As far as Obama, when he said if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon, to me, I always considered that kind of a racist statement. What do you mean he would look like you? I mean, so did Michael Brown look like you? Does every black child look like you? I don't know what that meant. Other than you know, for what it sounded like, and then of course with the Cambridge Professor Gates incident, which preceded Trayvon Martin, where the cops arrested Professor Gates, Obama said the cops acted stupidly, although he didn't know what had happened, and then he had a sit-down beer conference with one of the police officers, if you recall that. So he hasn't had a good track record when it comes to those kinds of incidents and commenting on them.
Yeah, and it turned out in the Gates incident, it seems that the police officer was doing his job, made a legitimate call, and it was actually Professor Gates who acted like a jerk, not the police officer. You know, police officers have to patrol social situations that they inherit. It's up to the politicians to create the right social conditions. Obviously not literally, we're not talking Big Brother here about telling people what to do, but politicians take responsibility, surely, for the problems within society. Police simply have to enforce the law. When they do that with discrimination, that's bad. When they fail to do it, that's bad. But they simply are there to enforce the law, and the vast majority of those in Ferguson are just trying to do their job. You know, tragedies happen. Why that's happened will be investigated, will be understood.
And we will find out. Timothy, great to talk to you as always. Thank you very much, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Timothy Stanley, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, the Malzberg panel. You're not going to want to miss it. Don't go away.